The patience tree, the fruit of endurance. In the heart of the vast Molecule Valley, where the sun kissed the earth with golden warmth and the wind carried whispers of old spirits, there lived a girl named Zola. Born into poverty, she had little more than the tattered wrap around her shoulders and the kindness in her heart. Her mother had died in a season of drought, her father had vanished into the wilderness in search of fortune, never to return, and the villagers looked upon her as a child of misfortune. But Zola was not one to wallow in sorrow. Every morning, she gathered firewood, fetched water from the distant river, and helped the elderly in exchange for food scraps. Her spirit was unbreakable, though her stomach often was empty. One evening, as the sky burned orange and purple with the setting sun, Zola trudged along the village path, carrying a bundle of sticks on her frail shoulders. As she neared the ancient baobab of elders, she noticed an old woman sitting beneath its massive roots. The woman's skin was as wrinkled as the bark of the sacred tree, and her eyes held the depth of forgotten ages. "Child," the woman called in a voice like rustling leaves. "Come closer." Zola hesitated but obeyed. She had heard stories of wandering spirits disguising themselves as frail old women, but something about this felt different. The woman held out a small, shimmering seed, no bigger than a pebble but glowing faintly in the dimming light. "This," she said, "is a seed of great power. Plant it, water it, and wait. But know this, true rewards only come to those with the patience to endure." Zola took the seed in her palm, marveling at its warmth. "How long must I wait?" she asked. The old woman smiled. "As long as it takes." Then, as suddenly as she had appeared, the woman was gone, leaving behind only the whisper of the wind. Zola returned to her small mud hut and, with great care, planted the seed behind her home. Every day, she woke before the sun, fetched water from the river, and poured it gently over the soil. She sang, whispered to it, and watched eagerly for the first sign of a sprout. But days turned into weeks. And weeks into months. The soil remained bare. The villagers laughed. "The foolish girl waters dust," they jeered. Even the children, who once played with her, now pointed at her and whispered. "You waste your time, Zola," said old Mama Abini, shaking her head. "You could be gathering food instead of dreaming of magic." Zola's heart ached, but she refused to give up. The words of the old woman echoed in her mind, "True rewards only come to those with patience." And so, she waited. Seasons changed. Famine struck the land, and the river that once flowed abundantly shrank to a trickle. Crops withered, livestock died, and the people grew desperate. Zola, too, suffered. Food was scarce, and she barely had the strength to rise each morning. The villagers mocked her even more. "Still watering your patch of dirt, Zola," they sneered. "It will not save you." Doubt crept into her heart. Had she been deceived? Had she wasted precious years on a seed that would never grow? One evening, starving and exhausted, she collapsed by the barren soil, tears mixing with the dry earth. "I have given you all I have," she whispered. "Why do you not grow?" That night, she dreamed of the old woman standing beneath the baobab again. "You are close, child," she said. "But patience is like a fire, it burns, but in the end, it hardens the soul into something unbreakable. Do not abandon your path now." Zola woke with renewed strength. If patience was fire, she would withstand its flames. Then, in the first rain after the third year, it happened. Zola stepped outside one morning to find a single green sprout piercing the soil. It was small and delicate, but it was alive. Tears welled in her eyes as she fell to her knees. "You have come," she whispered. The villagers, too, noticed. "Impossible," they muttered. "After all this time?" The sprout grew rapidly, faster than any normal tree. Within weeks, it was taller than Zola. Within months, it towered over the village, its bark shimmering like bronze, its leaves wide and golden. Then, on the eve of the 4th year, the tree bloomed. Clusters of luminous, golden fruit hung from its branches, pulsing softly as though filled with sunlight. And then came the sick. One by one, villagers suffering from the famine's effects approached the tree. An elder who had not walked in years took a single bite and stood. A child on the verge of death tasted the fruit and laughed. A woman blinded by disease opened her eyes after drinking the juice. Zola watched in awe as the fruit healed everyone who came to it. The tree's gift was greater than she had ever imagined. And suddenly, the people who had mocked her, who had abandoned her, now knelt before her. The village flourished again, and Zola was no longer the poor girl without family. She was now Zola, the guardian of the patience tree. One evening, as she sat beneath its mighty branches, the old woman appeared once more, just as she had on that fateful day. "You have done well," she said, her eyes twinkling. "You understood what others did not." Zola smiled, looking up at the golden canopy above. "Patience is not just about waiting," she said. "It is about enduring. About believing. About having faith even when the world tells you to give up." The old woman nodded. "And for that, you are worthy." With that, she disappeared, leaving behind a single golden seed in Zola's palm. A new journey awaited. Moral of the story: true rewards do not come quickly. They come to those who are willing to wait, endure, and believe.